My friends, the Citadel is a legendary piece of GoldenEye lore, as a level cut from the game, but which had remnants slowly but surely found, like breadcrumbs slowly uncovered through the OG days of GoldenEye fandom and early internet. How much of the level still existed deep within the game's code? How much, if any, remained playable? Today, I wanted to document the history of the Citadel stage, what led it to going from niche rumor to confirmed discovery, and then explore the stage myself, at least to the extent that I can. So buckle up as we dive deep into GoldenEye's long-lost, abandoned, forbidden, and cut stage, the Citadel.
Here we go!
Some of the earliest remaining, well-documented discussion about the Citadel stage comes from the archived website on the Wayback Machine of the one and only Detstar, early GoldenEye content creator and blogger from decades ago. We see this page dedicated to Citadel, first archived in the year 2002. On this page, we can find the earliest sort of hint to the stage, something uncovered a few years earlier, a screenshot dug up by memory hackers and coders where the word Citadel is displayed in broken text after the sequence of known levels, including Egypt. Why would Citadel be written here along with the game's other levels? Well, of course, speculation led to it having been a level in the game itself. And this list of levels seemed to be that of the multiplayer stages rather than the main game stages, which added to the mystery and intrigue of a potential Citadel stage. Let's read through some of these early blog posts and see what we could glean, parsing it as if we were reading the website 20-some years ago. Here's one of the first known screenshots of the Citadel. It's in the place where Egyptian should be. We can rename Egyptian to Citadel with this GameShark code, but a code to modify the level picture into the one seen in these screenshots has not been found. This rather controversial screenshot almost has to be a fake, but the mission picture looks almost exactly like the level's picture above. The similarities are unbelievable. The obvious spelling mistake in the Ashton Martin objective, Aston Martin Bond's car, makes it a certain fake, but could Rare have accidentally made this simple spelling mistake? One other spelling mistake occurs in the game though, Quetzalcoatl, the Aztec god, where Rare left out the L. A whole series of these 007 mode screenshots exist, ones for Citadel, Moonbase, and Buddha Temple. This is almost certainly a fake, and it wouldn't be hard to do at all. The Egyptian temple is now mission number 9. If this is supposed to be real, what happened to the other missions? The odds of this being a real screenshot aren't good, and I'm positive that it's a fake. So we can see how some real, true data parsed from the game's code led to rampant speculation and playground rumors about the stage. This eventually led to a Rare developer being asked about the stage, to which a more official statement was finally delivered. I believe this quote may have been from Duncan Botwood, though I can only find secondary sources on the quote. Citadel was a very rough test level designed during the early stages of multiplayer mode. It's not in the finished game in any shape or form, and Oddjob and Mayday wouldn't be in it if it was. Now, the developer probably refers to Oddjob and Mayday here, as these were also sort of urban legends and rumors about GoldenEye back in these early days. So the questioner probably pondered about Citadel and about these characters as well, which is why we see the blend of the two. But either way, this quote seemed to be even more confirmation that there was a very real stage named the Citadel at some point, which existed in some way, shape, or form in the game, rather than it just being a random line of text and code, as pondered could be the case previously. With that in mind, here's what appeared in response to this quote on the Detstar website in 2002. Okay, we know next to nothing about this level. About the only thing we do know is that it was a multiplayer level. Rare stated that, but they also said that Oddjob and Mayday wouldn't be in it. Why would they have appeared in a multiplayer level? It seems as if Rare slipped and admitted that it was a mission. Otherwise, why would they need to say that the 2 stars wouldn't be there? Again, to interject here, it's probably because it was asked in such a way, pondering all these rumors at the same time. But anyways, the page continues. If it was a mission level, it didn't last very long. The name of it, if it ever was there, has been removed from the list of mission names in the memory. It does appear with the multiplayer level names though, not the mission levels. Here is the order in which the multiplayer names appear in the memory. They're in order except for Library, which is made up of Stack and Basement. Those 2 names are located in completely different parts of the memory, maybe because they were only available as a library and then it was decided to split them up. Back to the Citadel. Its name appears after Egyptian, so does that mean it would have been the final level to choose from? And if the level names are in order, with mission levels last, then wouldn't that mean that Citadel would have been the last mission level too? And so from there we would see continued rampant speculation and imagination, with a couple more hoaxes and fakes, attempted revelations that someone had found the Citadel stage and made it playable. For example, there was this weird instance where someone found a way to rename Bunker 1 to Citadel. You know, you can rename levels and things in the game if you know the certain GameShark codes that correspond to it. But in this hoax, they were able to load up a weird empty version of the bunker as well, and this was claimed to be the Citadel, but it was pretty realized that this was just someone trolling with some GameShark codes. Likewise, this screenshot purported to show the Citadel, until it was realized that this was just a random corner-in facility with some beta textures GameShark did. So yeah, the fake Citadel Found rumors continue to fly over the next few years, through various avenues of trollery, GameSharking, photoshopping, and other hoaxing. That was until 2004, when the Citadel had been found. For real this time. A fellow by the name of Krigi had found or created a series of GameShark codes that incredibly were able to load in the Citadel stage, or at least what was left of it, and it did so by replacing the Cradle stage with the Citadel's architecture, and it was somewhat explorable. Here's what legendary GoldenEye ROM hacker Subdrag wrote for the Death Star page about Krigi's discovery. To quote the previous Citadel page, the Citadel level does not exist in the final version of GoldenEye. After several years, we sure have been proven wrong. The Citadel level, forgotten lore in GoldenEye's history, only known because of a text reference to Citadel in the game's memory, has finally been uncovered. Here is Rare's official answer regarding the existence of the level. Citadel was a very rough test level designed during the early stages of multiplayer mode. It's not in the finished game in any shape or form, and Oddjob and Mayday wouldn't be in it if it was. Oddly enough, Rare was telling the truth about the level itself. The Citadel was in fact a rough test map, and it isn't finished. Well, it won't load properly, but it is in fact still there in some shape or form, so they were either lying or simply unaware it was still there. And it's also a very sweet looking map. So finally, here is the GameShark code to load the Citadel. Here's how it works. It changes the file loaded for background information away from Cradle to Citadel. The background information for the Citadel is still intact. Now, yes, it does say cat, but in fact it does correspond to the Citadel level if you draw them all out with their background names. Other levels have this sort of reference, like ref for complex, a rec for control, etc. This is the Citadel. It lines up as the others do in memory. Cat probably stands for Cathedral, which must have been the initial level designation until they had decided on Citadel. Also, the size of the level had to be changed away from Cradle to Citadels. This was done by looking at Citadel's load. It was level digit 28 for your information, and although this will crash if you try to load that level on its own, it still has its place in memory for loading the level itself. The reason it does not load properly is its setup file does not work. This would normally have in multi the respawn points, ammo and gun points, and flag. Also, there is a collision detection file as well, which theoretically works, but we have not been able to get it to do anything yet. Therefore, we must load another level. Cradle was used because it has the best compatibility, so we choose Cradle. You will unfortunately be in walk-through walls mode, but you can still enjoy the very cool architecture of Citadel. Playing here must have been a treat. Perhaps one day it can be restored. Just imagine multi here, or even solo mode, and perhaps imagine that at one point they tested props in here as well. I must also mention that all of this was done by Krigi, so thanks to him, we finally have the long-lost Citadel. And then we see the lines of code. 9 lines to be precise. This is followed by a number of screenshots, but we'll get to a better look in a moment, and then a final couple of clarifiers. There are various mission select pictures of Citadel, but they are all faked, of course. Almost certainly this level never had a briefing and was never intended to be a solo level as we're used to. It seems to be a movement and perhaps a multi-testing facility. From the old Death Star explanation, had this rough test level been left in the game, we would all think it was a useless waste of time. But since it wasn't, most people are eager to find out what it is, to satisfy simple curiosity. It seems a lot more expansive than even I had thought, and so it wouldn't in fact be a waste of time to get it working, and would seem like a great amount of fun. It's no simple one-room test map. So there you have it, the story of how Citadel was found and playable. And for some reason, I just never felt like inputting these codes and playing the Citadel myself all this time I played GoldenEye, but 20 years later, this will be my first time ever exploring the stage. I'm going to play it and exploring it, pondering both its possible use as a multiplayer stage, and even what if it were a single player stage, as well as examining the unideal but necessary cradle leftovers we will encounter, and the whole beautiful, wonderful architecture of the Citadel stage, something I've never seen firsthand until now. So without further ado, let's check out the Citadel. So here are the codes, and we're gonna just start the game and play. Now, this specific codes overwrites the Cradle level with the Citadel stage, so we have to pick Cradle here, and you'll see what it's like. So here we are, and this is clearly not Cradle, even though it says it at the bottom. It is some kind of other stage, and we have the long pan into Bond, where we get to Bond. Objective B completed comes up right away. And I want to look at the other cutscene of the stage as the intro cutscene before coming into play. So here's the other cutscene, maybe even a better all-around cutscene. It takes on Cradle's sky texture, background texture, and the name, but we pan in here again, and it says Objective B completed, which is the settle the score with Trevelyan objective. Now I presume he may have fallen off the level, or just was never loaded in to begin with. It's hard to say what the code does. We can already see I'm kind of eking out of bounds behind me here, which is kind of unusual. You know, you'll notice that none of the collision on the levels and area is in. We just get the visuals of the level, so that's certainly interesting. And you may have noticed even in the opening cutscene some of the guards standing around or milling around. We'll get to them if and when we come across them, but here we go. You start here, pull into here, and what is it? It's a crazy world and realm of the old Citadel. If I try to go up this ramp, I just don't go up the ramp, unfortunately. You know, there's no collision, and you just walk right through it, and this is true of pretty much all the walls and ramps on the level. But thankfully, we can at least kind of crouch down and look and see the sort of expansion of the stage down here. Areas that we can't get to, no vertical up-down movement, but there's some unusual things to see. Overall, this is a room with a lot of ramps, and we can kind of see 4 spiraling ones. Oh, you get stuck over here. Let me get back here. I do not know why we get stuck here. It's a very unusual thing. Maybe I drop off here, and you just straight up get stuck without being able to move. So let's get back in and check out this level again. Here's the guards really stuck milling about, and I think they're taking the path they were supposed to take on Cradle, but because the level's so much different, the path just has them end up running into walls and spiraling, kind of like we did over here. So let's avoid that. But we see there's all these sort of ramps leading kind of up to the center point, or I guess at least 2 ramps. And, you know, what would be up here? Who knows? And it's sort of kind of an obelisk-y type of shape. Reminds me of the one on Egypt in a way, even though it's not quite the same. Also, this platform up here, look, it's taking shots, so some amount of it is solid. At least the texture. Maybe it's just our position that can't get updated, even though the ramps and whatnot and floors are solid. We can see a guard over here, and yes, we will get to the guards, so keep them in mind. Let's actually go back here where I got stuck, you know. But if I actually go through the wall... Okay, I can't quite go through that wall. But if I go through this wall... No, that one caps out. Oh, but here we're getting deep in there. You can often find your way around through unconventional manners. So here we're over here. I couldn't pass through that kind of section. I got stuck. And I am getting stuck in a wall here. And I wonder if those walls, those invisible walls, are sort of places where the cradle texture is still finding its way into this new layout. Kind of stuck, can't go back too far there, but I can go here. So obviously I can't go down into this room in this area, which is unfortunate. But through, you know, traversing through walls and stuff, I'm over here. We see this kind of very interesting area with these little alcoves. As we would call any sort of section like this an alcove or a culvert, which may not always be correct, but that's kind of interesting. We come around here, and now this is one of the most notable rooms on the level that used to get talked about a good deal back in the day to those hackers and coders who were able to access it. With these weird metallic kind of structures. Are they metallic? Are they stone? Kind of almost reminds me of the Georgia Guidestones, which I'd have to double check if they even existed in 1997 when they were put up. But maybe even those were inspired by sort of spy and weird, you know, elite world agency type of things that you see in sort of James Bond video games. And we know that the bonus stages, like Egyptian and Aztec and Citadel, kind of have this more overarching spy James Bond lore rather than anything from GoldenEye specifically. Now I can pass right through these structures, very kind of unusual structures, and I'm sort of like, feels like I'm going downhill. You know, over here, I feel like I'm standing at the right angle, sort of standing equally high to the level, but as I approach, it feels like I'm sort of like starting to sink. And I don't know if that's the way the level's built. We won't quite go down that area yet. But yeah, these metallic structures, how many are there going to be? I guess 4x4, so 16, plus the one in the middle is kind of covering this obelisk. So maybe it's supposed to be 15, you know, maybe this would be edited out. This one would have been removed if the level was actually made in full. Now, you hear the cradle music playing, so at this point I'm going to pause and turn that off with the in-game option. There actually is Citadel music, which you'll get in multiplayer sometimes. You get all the tracks, even ones that aren't in the levels you get in multiplayer, they come up periodically, kind of assigns a random music track. So I'll play the Citadel track now for a little bit here. And wow, I mean, I'm really stepping back and seeing this kind of massive arching thing. I mean, it really would be a crazy level. It's almost more of a multiplayer level. And there is a way to play it in multiplayer. I'm not going to do that today, but likewise, as we're replacing Cradle with the Citadel, it replaces like library or something, the code that we find online. So yeah, let's go over here. There's a ramp downwards, but unfortunately we cannot really travel downwards. We're still in this area. If I crouch, I can kind of see where this would have led. And it leads to another, like, absolutely insane sort of cathedral-like area where, you know, GoldenEye's interesting because you wouldn't really be able to fall off. There's only a few places you can fall off of stuff. Would you be able to fall off this ramp? You know, what are these two white obelisks? Would they have maybe a more finished texture at some point? These are questions, and look here, we'll address that in a second, what you just saw, the drone and whatnot. I do not believe it was part of the original Citadel level. But you can imagine being down here running around. Great for multiplayer, reminds me of sort of the temple stage in multi. But would there be objectives? Would you strafe around? And this is where I'm called to ponder, you know, imagine speedrunning the stage if it ever got completed in an official manner. I know there's been some variations where people have made their sort of taken this architecture and made it into a playable level, and that's cool. But if the game was intended and finished the Citadel stage, what it would look like. Now over here, we're going to see some interesting things, right? I'm pretty sure I can just pop up and stand up, kind of warping through the walls and stuff. Like, what's going on here? There's a drone, there's a door. I cannot press B at it. It's not, even though I hear a door opening and closing in the background of the mission, I can't press B at it. There's guards even. There's drones, they're not active. And there's even this console, and it's pretty scrunched up. You don't see a console that thin ever in the real game. If I shoot the drone, it blows up. If I shoot the console, you'll notice something interesting. Objective A completed. And that is indeed on Cradle, the objective to destroy the console. And so I was kind of wondering, like, maybe, again, the code, it's only 9 lines of code, does it sort of, like, compress the Cradle stage in such a way that, you know, the invisible walls here and there are from Cradle, but it compresses the Cradle in such a way that the vast overall Citadel area is kind of more playable and explorable. And I'd have to dig deeper into exactly what all the lines of text in the code mean. And, you know, that could be the case that these hackers back in the day who discovered this really just kind of went hard and found a way to play it on Cradle by overwriting Cradle with the Citadel. And it makes me wonder further, like, could you overwrite other stages with the Citadel architecture? What bits of that code represent writing over Cradle? And, you know, let's say you could. Let's say the game wouldn't crash and you could do that. Then, in that case, how would the sky look and whatnot on all the other stages? Jungle, Depot, Statue, Surface 2, it would be crazy, you know, and I would love to explore that, perhaps, in a future video or stream. Now, these guards. Again, there are 3 or 4 guards on Cradle. They run around and spawn sort of infinitely when you start the mission, and anytime you kill one, it gets replaced with a new spawning guard. They do indeed take damage, even though we get a lot of this weird sort of graphical glitch just by moving a little bit here and there. We don't see or we do see them. I believe in a previous video someone told me this was called Z fighting, Zed fighting. Might not be the exact case in this situation where we have 2 objects, you know, kind of riding over each other, competing for space and memory. But there you go, and the guards were all stuck due to, I guess, the path that they're programmed to take on Cradle and it not matching with the new stage that's been presented. I wonder if they'll spawn in again. Yep, there one has spawned in. So there you go. He spawns in right there. Oh, and there's a couple more. They've spawned into this spot. Oh, okay, I did notice this on one previous playthrough. Like, depending on where you look on the stage, they can either, like, be there or up there. And it's kind of odd. You know, like, they're gone from that corner now. Now they're in that corner. And now, like, they're up here. Or something weird. It might just be the way the 2 and the 4 are. But certainly an oddity that we find ourselves pondering here on the Citadel stage. Now, this almost looks like it could have been a room. You know, some sort of room you'd come in to maybe do an objective. And maybe the scaling is not exactly where it needs to be. 3 rooms. Looks pretty clear to me that it's 3 rooms. You wonder if you'd have to go in one, you know, Surface 1 style and pick up items from a safe or documents from a table or something. So that's pretty interesting as well, these 3 rooms. And if we go over here, we get this long hallway again with some more alcove type of stuff. Again, I'm kind of sinking. The whole thing kind of wants to pull you a bit down as you're heading. It's kind of built on a slant, maybe. But then we, just get here. And unfortunately, I'm crouching now. we get back into this sort of main insane atrium style cathedral hall, which I feel like would be sort of the grand centerpiece of the stage. The guard here, see the shots? I mean, it's so wonky with the shots and the guards. One thing I noticed, I played this once or twice before. If we go all the way outside of this area, and strafe around it, we can get some good views this way, all the way around it. It's interesting how that invisible wall like crashed me out here. But here is a body armor, and I can't pick it up, unfortunately. Cannot pick it up. And I strafed way around and found another one way out here. Oh, I'm running into a invisible wall again. And wow, you could really see the walls populate in. Oh, I was like, did I get past the invisible wall? I'm going to back strafe now. And no, I'm still hitting it. So we'll go around the other way and give ourselves another great look at this. And see if I can find that other body armor way off in the distance. I mean, there's one. That one almost looks like it might be placed there sort of as the intended way on the old Citadel stage, if such a thing were to be the case. And yeah, over here, look, another body armor. And so I'm wondering if that one is a relic from the Cradle stage. Like, this is actually where you start on Cradle, Agent, or whatever, and you turn around to get that first body armor, as so many of us did when playing Cradle the first time. But I don't know, because this is not where I started the mission when it loaded me in, when it thrust me in here. I was more like over here-ish? Over here, I think I was, or even right in here, I believe I was. And so, yeah, that's kind of unusual. And the body armor there, it's kind of far away. It might be the right one. But how much of these relics are leftovers from us, you know, overwriting the Cradle stage, and how much of this is the Citadel? That is a question that I certainly have. And again, one that I ponder how this would change if and when I find a code to overwrite it onto a different stage, how that would look. And those 9 lines of code, you know, maybe they change Bond's position, starting position, and all sorts of other stuff. But there you go. There's a really unusual look at this long forgotten stage. I find it truly amazing. You know, I did a brief search on YouTube for GoldenEye's Citadel, and didn't find much other than just raw videos of exploring the stage like this, with no commentary. And I thought, why not do it myself and sort of give my take and interpretation on what we're seeing here, and what it could all mean, and exactly what's going on, and perhaps the future, if we can find any other more information about Citadel, any more codes to overwrite. Taking damage here, and that's kind of interesting that a guard spotted me. I'm now locked in to this position. You know, I found myself locked in here. Not even a guard shooting me seems to get me out. And I'm out of ammo. So that's interesting. I guess you just gotta take the shots till we pass away. And I do wonder, that large structure, that pyramid structure in the distance, you know, what is that? Could we climb up there? Would an objective be hidden up there? And what might that be like? So amazing things I ponder when it comes to this wonderful Citadel stage. Let's see if anything unusual happens when we do pass away here. Maybe the camera will give us some unusual angles, or who knows? Wow, no angles whatsoever. I kind of expected that, frankly. I knew that's a possibility sometimes. The game can't interpret the reverse camera angles or whatever. There's some situations, sometimes you get a really laggy run and you die. You don't get any reverse camera, any footage of yourself passing away. But that was weird. I was kind of hoping for it, but not shocked that there was none. Hope we just get this basic KIA screen on Cradle. A couple more pieces to the main discovery. A little while later, a code was found that gave the correct sky texture and background to the Citadel stage, which is what you see in these screenshots with a more green and yellow sky texture. Someone also had the great idea to use a moonjump code and get other views and perspectives of the stage. Another thing I ponder is, if we replaced levels other than Cradle with Citadel, what would happen? It seems doable based on my understanding of the story from Crigi and Subdrag, and I'm sure they just experimented with this at some point before deciding that Cradle was the best fit. Even so, I would still be interested in checking out how Citadel interpolates on the other stages, and I would love to try that on stream sometime perhaps, or something like that. There have been improved iterations of the Citadel code made in the years since, like this footage from channel GoldenEye Forever of a multiplayer match being played on the stage, or at least some multiplayer footage. And here's a screenshot from a GoldenEye source level, a pretty faithful recreation of the Citadel stage, especially that kind of weird angled room. I've heard there is a patch that makes the Citadel stage actually solid and playable on N64, a little more explorable, so maybe I'll check that out sometime as well. Anyways, that'll do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this look back at this legendary piece of GoldenEye lore. Thanks to the channel members and Patreon supporters for all your support of my work. Stay true, my friends, and I'll see you in the next stream or video.